Carrick splashing £60 million on a new striker. Mo Salah's next club is set to shock absolutely everyone. Xabi Alonso ready to take charge of a Premier League side? And Adam Wharton has made his decision, and it's not Real Madrid. All this and much more in today's episode. Before we get into the news, do me a quick favor and hit that like button. It's the single most important thing you can do to help this channel grow and keep these videos coming. Done? Let's dive straight in. Liverpool are trying to batten down the hatches before the whole ship goes under. According to Matteo Moretto, the club are pushing hard to get Adam Wharton over the line from Crystal Palace, with negotiations now at an advanced stage. At Anfield, they've woken up to a very uncomfortable truth. If they don't move for the midfielder now, he'll be walking through the doors of Real Madrid come the summer. The Spanish giants have been tracking him for a good while, and Liverpool are simply trying to avoid a bidding war they'd have absolutely no chance of winning. After a deeply embarrassing trophyless season and a completely botched title defence, signing a 22-year-old Englishman feels like the club desperately trying to prove they're still a force to be reckoned with. The first piece of official summer business is already done. Centre-back Jérémy Jacquet from Rennes is confirmed. But honestly, that's little more than a lick of paint on a crumbling wall given the sheer scale of the squad crisis they're facing. Salah and Robertson have both confirmed they're off, and now Alisson has joined that queue. The Brazilian is in direct talks with Juventus, and his desire to return to Italy says everything you need to know about the current state of this football club. When the very spine of your team is disintegrating in front of your eyes, signing Wharton looks like nothing more than pressing a plaster onto a gaping wound. Tactically, Adam will give them composure and control in the center of the park. No question about that. But he simply cannot replace the sheer presence and leadership those departing figures brought to that dressing room. Finding a proper replacement for Salah has turned into a frantic scramble through options. The name currently on the agenda is Bradley Barcola from PSG. The Parisians are desperately trying to tie the winger down to a new deal, but Liverpool are going straight for the jugular, dangling the promise of guaranteed, undisputed first-team football. For Barcola, it's a genuine chance to step out of the shadows of Paris's galaxy of stars. For Liverpool, it might just be their only realistic way of avoiding a full-on slide into mediocrity. There's also Jan Diomande from Leipzig in the mix, but he's very much a project for the future, and results on the pitch were needed yesterday, not in 2 years' time. Barcola's agents know exactly how desperate the English side are, and they will absolutely squeeze every last penny they can out of this deal. The logic from the Liverpool boardroom is fairly straightforward. Load up on young talent while the club's brand still carries some weight in the transfer market. The investment in Wharton isn't about strengthening right now. It's about the fear of sliding permanently into mid-table obscurity. And if Alisson does end up in Turin, no amount of wonder kids scouted from League One will spare this club from a long, painful, and deeply uncomfortable rebuild. Liverpool are trading proven legends for hypothetical potential, and they're banking on the fan base, not noticing just how significant that swap actually is. They're building for a future on the ashes of the present, transforming from genuine trophy hunters into a very expensive, very glamorous academy. Over at Stamford Bridge, there's a familiar draft running through the corridors. The manager's chair is empty again after Liam Rosenior's supposedly long-term project collapsed in just 2 months. Even by Chelsea's own remarkable standards, that's some kind of record. According to Fußballdaten, the club are now absolutely fixated on bringing in Xabi Alonso. Following his strange departure from Real Madrid back in January, the Spaniard is on the lookout for a project where he can rebuild his reputation. In Madrid, he didn't fail tactically. He simply refused to play nursemaid to a dressing room bursting at the seams with ego, which in Florentino Perez's world apparently constitutes gross misconduct. So now, the offer on the table is arguably the most toxic job in European football. Chelsea's boardroom logic is as predictable as ever. Alonso dominated the Bundesliga with Bayer Leverkusen. Therefore, he can surely tame a chaotic billion-pound squad. For the directors, Xabi is first and foremost a statement appointment. A big name that will quieten the stands and tick the box on their roster's age profile. They want a visionary, but they keep hiring sacrificial lambs with almost religious dedication, while Andoni Iraola is hovering on the list as the safe option. Bournemouth experience, zero compensation fee. Alonso remains the kind of all-or-nothing gamble that Todd Boehly loves to use to justify his spending. And the irony here is almost too on the nose. Alonso left Spain because he couldn't stomach the internal politics, yet Chelsea are essentially a political minefield with a football pitch wedged in the middle. Sources are now confirming that Xabi is packing his bags, seduced by the pull of the Premier League. He believes he's walking into a young, hungry squad ready to be molded. The reality, of course, is a dressing room full of endless long-term contracts and badly fractured confidence. If he couldn't manage the hierarchy at the Bernabeu, then the unstructured, chaotic reality of Stamford Bridge will either be the making of him or the final nail in the coffin. The search for stability in West London still resembles someone trying to piece together a jigsaw in the eye of a tornado. Alonso is brilliant, meticulous, and currently completely available, which, let's be honest, is the perfect combination of qualities to get you sacked by next Christmas at this particular club. The owners don't just need a manager, they need someone willing to suspend all common sense for the chance to leave their mark on history. Chelsea aren't looking for a gaffer. They're recruiting a kamikaze, ready for a very brief and very expensive tour of duty. Right, if you've made it this far and you're still not subscribed, that level of stubbornness genuinely deserves a starting spot in Chelsea's back four. They're crying out for people who dig their heels in to the bitter end. But do yourself a favor and show just a sliver of common sense. Hit that subscribe button and switch on the notifications. The world of football chaos moves far too quickly for you to be missing my videos. There'll be no stability at Stamford Bridge, but here, I can absolutely promise you there will be. Nathan Ake has officially had enough of keeping that Etihad Stadium bench warm. The 31-year-old Dutchman is ready to breathe new life into his career at Everton, where David Moyes has apparently been waiting with open arms. According to Football Insider, the Merseyside club are already laying the groundwork for the transfer, seeing in the versatile defender exactly the kind of tactical bedrock their backline has been crying out for. Moyes desperately needs an experienced left-footed centre-back who can cover the flank when required. It's a position that's been a gaping hole at Everton for more seasons than anyone cares to admit. Nathan Ake looks every inch the lifeline, a proven Premier League operator who doesn't need time to find his feet and will be ready to put a shift in from day one. At the Etihad, his career has effectively been on pause. 2 years spent lurking deep in the shadows and wearing the permanent label of squad player, that sort of thing inevitably takes a hammer to any footballer's ambitions. Manchester City are hardly going to twist anyone's arm to keep him either. It makes far more sense for the club to let an aging asset with a declining price tag move on than to keep him rotting in the reserves and souring the atmosphere in the dressing room. This is classic Moyes pragmatism. Squeeze every last drop out of someone the big clubs have quietly written off. While his rivals are chasing teenagers for hundreds of millions, Everton are ready to snap up a quality player at a serious discount. Though frankly, the financial constraints the club are operating under don't leave much room for romantic gestures anyway. For Ake, the move to Hill Dickinson is the one and only chance to prove he's still a top-level footballer, and not simply an expensive ornament sitting in Pep Guardiola's trophy cabinet. Mohamed Salah has well and truly outgrown Anfield, and now the great Egyptian is choosing between the golden sands of the desert and the glittering lifestyle of the Californian coast. According to Team Talk, Liverpool's iconic number is no longer restricting himself to the Saudi route. MLS has entered the race in dramatic fashion, dangling a proposition that's very difficult to turn down for a man who can calculate his finances just as sharply as he can finish. This isn't simply the tail end of a career, it's a full-scale tender process, where the prize on offer is the most commercially powerful Muslim athlete in world sport. The Saudi Pro League has spent years laying siege to Salah, preparing the kind of contract figures that make your eyes water, but the San Diego project has thrown a very large spanner in those works. The club, backed by the influence of Sir Mohammed Mansour, intends to make Mohammed not just a footballer, but the entire foundation upon which American soccer is built. The sporting side of things is almost secondary here. What's really at stake are colossal commercial rights and the status of becoming the defining face of soccer in the United States, with the home World Cup just around the corner. The Saudis are offering mountains of cash. America is offering a global legacy with real long-term value. Salah's family are already deeply involved in the decision-making process, turning what is already a massive transfer into something resembling long-term family planning. This summer, while the world's attention is fixed on the World Cup final, his close ones are planning a detailed visit to the States, intending to personally assess the quality of life and the level of privacy available on the other side of the Atlantic. Salah is a pragmatist. He knows full well that in Riyadh he'll be a king in a golden cage, whereas in the US he gains access to a limitless marketing landscape and, crucially, a quieter, more settled life for his children. We may well be witnessing the birth of the most expensive retirement plan in the history of the game, with Salah operating as a coldly calculating grandmaster, making every move count. The choice between the financial dominance of the sheikhs and the comfort of the Western elite is a dilemma with no wrong answer, just different rates of return. What's crystal clear, though, is that Liverpool have long since been reduced to a minor administrative inconvenience in all of this, a formality that nobody is particularly interested in observing anymore. Nobody, that is, except the accountants. Old Trafford has set its sights on West London again, specifically on a Brentford side that has quietly transformed itself into the most efficient talent factory in modern English football. According to Sportsboom, United's hierarchy are seriously considering Igor Thiago as the answer to their chronic problems in the final third. The asking price? £60 million. For the Bees, that's another masterclass in buying low and selling very, very high. For United, it's an attempt to purchase ready-made effectiveness instead of rolling the dice on yet another expensive foreign gamble. Speaking of rolling dice and millions, while United are flinging money around like they've got their own personal printing press underneath the Old Trafford stands, we operate on rather stricter financial principles around here. The only currency I deal in is your likes, and that, remarkably, is still one of the few things in Britain that hasn't gone up in price. So if you're one of those ghosts who watches every single video without ever touching that button, show a bit of mercy, right? Back to Thiago. The Brazilian is currently sitting second in the Premier League scoring charts, behind only Haaland. In football, goals remain the one currency that never suffers from inflation. For that kind of money, United aren't buying vague potential, they're purchasing a player that the Premier League meat grinder has completely failed to chew up and spit out. Keith Andrews has called Thiago sensational. The power, the athleticism, the ice-cold composure inside the box, but behind the attractive shop window, there's some deeply questionable squad-building logic lurking. United already have Benjamin Šeško as their long-term answer up top. Joshua Zirkzee's future remains murky. If the Dutchman goes, the Thiago transfer becomes an absolute necessity. But if Zirkzee stays, this risks becoming nothing more than an impulsive luxury purchase in a summer that demands ruthless financial discipline and total cost-cutting from the boardroom. The real danger here isn't the price tag, it's the systemic priorities or lack thereof. Everything coming out of the club internally points to the imminent departures of Casemiro and Manuel Ugarte. The midfield desperately needs fresh legs, proper structure, and genuine authority, not another expensive centre-forward. There is absolutely no practical logic in signing an elite goalscorer if the team is fundamentally incapable of controlling matches or delivering the ball into dangerous areas in the first place. Thiago is used to being the central figure around whom Brentford's entire universe revolves. Is he genuinely going to accept becoming a rotational cog in a machine that never stops spluttering? If United once again mistake an exciting opportunity for an actual coherent strategy, Igor Thiago will be nothing more than a thrilling name on a piece of paper, one that gets swallowed up very quickly by the endless, exhausting chaos of Old Trafford.